G'day, gang. Hi, it's me again. Yeah, I know, right? I'm excited too. So, I wanted to talk about mental health, and the specific angle I wanted to talk about it from is how we're handling it. Because I think overall, healthcare has always been an overloaded sector. My first job was in aged psychiatric and disability care, and it was a very, very heavy job for a very young person. But I think back then, even, I found out that it's it's a system that doesn't seem to function very well in itself. Like medical field in general is bloated, overcomplicated, and just not functioning as it should. And that I think is part of the problem in the field. It's not that we don't have really good professionals and really good options and incredible amounts of research. It just happens to be that it's a very, very complicated field with numerous other problems. Like even the process of diagnoses can take huge long time. One of the things that I myself have been diagnosed with took, on average, when I got diagnosed, I think it was 16 to 18 years to diagnose this significant medical issue. And it's such a problematic field. But mental health is, oh, well, it's a bloated, far more bloated sector and far more understaffed. But I think too, the way that we approach it as, I think societally is very problematic, not just for the sake that we consistently push things under the rug. We don't want to talk about the entire sector. If we are in the mental health system, a lot of times we don't even want to talk about the fact that we're in therapy. We definitely don't want to talk about what we're in therapy for, unless you're a social media person, and then you talk only about your mental health diagnoses, most of which have not been diagnosed. I joke. A little, there is a little bit of truth to that, but mostly I joke. Um, but I think there is a growing trend that I've been seeing, which is the specific thing that I want to talk about, of mental health, is the diagnosis is the end of the journey. There are a lot of people today who are specifically going out of their way to try and get a diagnosis just to say, that's me. That's all I am. That's all I'll ever be. And leaving the mental health journey there instead of working on themselves, working out how to even just work with what they have, not even going to treatment, but trying to understand their conditions better and trying to understand how to make life easier for them and the people around them. They have just decided, this is who I am, this is my diagnosis, that's it, full stop, end of the journey. And I think that, while that is significantly easier on the mental health system, thanks for that, it's not. It's not. It shouldn't be how it goes. Even if you leave the mental health system and you just start working on what that means for you and the people around you, I think that is an avenue in which that is a great option to take. But to say, I'm going to go with the classic. I'm sorry to be reinforcing stereotypes, but to say, I'm autistic, full stop. That's what I am. Tough luck. I think it's really complicated. And I have had heated discussions with numerous people who are very, very close to me, of whom I completely disagree with about that perspective of seeing this is just what it is. Because I think there are numerous conditions that people can work on and that people can learn to understand without even going down the route of needing medication, which I know that a lot of people are opposed. I'm very opposed to it myself because I'm a moron and I will forget to take my medication. But everybody has their own their own options. Everybody has their own the things that do and do not work for them, and everyone has things that they can strive for and things that that will work against them. So we all have our own sensibilities and expectations, and we all know ourselves, and we learn about ourselves through the mental health process, which I think is part of the strength of the process. And I think if that is the only takeaway, then I think you're getting the best part about it. If you don't get healthier, that is genuinely awful. But trying to understand about yourself, about your conditions, about how things work for you, I think that's the best way to go about mental health, in my opinion. But again, it's different for everyone. And I manage my diagnosed ADHD. I mean, who would have guessed, given the way that I'm wiggling and jiggling in my chair? I manage it as best as I can. But it's a part of me, and I understand that. But diagnosis is not the end of the road. It's just, okay, how can I manage it? What can I learn about it? What changes have been done? What strategies can I employ? I think that there are so many ways that we can investigate methods to move forward with who we are as in general, who we are as people. That's not unique to the mental health system, I think, nor the health system. That's just who we are as people and our own preferences. And I think that we really like to define our own preferences. And for some reason, the buck consistently stops with mental health, and it's really confusing. Like, we can talk about the movies we like, we can talk about the games we like, we can talk about our friends, we can talk about the things we like to do, and all of this laundry list of stuff that we enjoy. But the moment that you talk about mental health preferences, a lot of people shut down. And I think that I am talking so broadly over very extreme camps of different people, and I'm very aware of that. But I kind of wanted to start this video as as an opening, more so than anything, just to try and work out if people wanted to have a dialogue with me, if people give a toss about my opinion. You don't have to. You can be doing whatever you want. But I did want to try and investigate if it was something that, I should make videos about. I'm really excited to get into the video space, and I'm excited to try and work out what topics people want to talk about, from what angle, and what side of it too. Because as I mentioned in this video itself, there are so many different camps on mental health. Again, you have people who self-diagnose and then define themselves by that. And I think that goes into diagnosis at the start of the conversation instead of at the diagnosis at the end of the conversation instead of at the start. That was such a simple sentence. And yet still, I fucked it up. So I think those people who self-diagnose often just want the diagnosis for the badge, I guess. I'm not sure what other word to use that, as I'm quite ashamed of my diagnoses, even though I can't change them, which is another end of the stupidity and unhealthy side. Because yes, I do think it's very stupid to have your diagnosis like tattooed on your forehead. I think it doesn't change who you are to know a word in which to call yourself. Like, for me to say green-eyed, that doesn't change my perception of myself, or it shouldn't change the way that other people perceive me. It just is what it is. Cat owner is asleep now. That doesn't change like things, and I mean, that one is a funny one because it's a choice. But but to say like that is who you are, and that's where the conversation ends, is, I think, an incredibly toxic and unhelpful way to think about mental health. And I hope that we can start a conversation about not doing that, or about doing that in a way in which that is healthy, in saying, if this is who I am, let's work with it. Like, let's start from there. But again, I'm very interested to see what people think about mental health in general, because I think it's a really complicated, massive conversation. And again, as I started, the mental health system is so particularly bloated right now, and I think it is due to a huge laundry list of social issues that we have in the English speaking world. And I'm interested in particularly in opinions of people who aren't in the English speaking world. I'd like to hear what those people think, because I live in a non-English speaking country, and we definitely have a very, very different view on mental health, even though mental health is still a massive issue here. The loneliness crisis isn't such a big deal here. In the Netherlands, it's still an issue, but it is not even remotely the same sort of issue that you see in English-speaking cultures. So definitely like to see how people think about it, how people feel about diagnoses, and where they come into the journey. Because again, I think trying to talk about starting a conversation about mental health as the diagnosis at the start of the conversation, I think is something that we should try to culturally shift towards. But again, I really want to hear what everybody else thinks about this topic, and if people are interested in my opinion about the topic, given that I've both worked in the field in a broad amount of ways, and I am currently in the mental health system myself. So it'll be interesting to see how people think about that and what they want to hear. So I'll see you next time. You did it, guys. Yeah, I'm so proud of you all. Thank you for sitting through with me. Bye.